Welcome in, Kuma Crew. It is once more your favourite friendly despair bear, Annakuma, and today we're here with another full review of one of the games from our demo review series. Today we're getting spooky with Postmodern Adventures 2024 release, An English Haunting. I remember there being so much that I loved about the demo, from the atmosphere that it built up to the very well crafted introduction puzzle. It also had a fantastic art style that really showed off the Edwardian London style, a really interesting travel map that I went on and on about because just look at this. Look at how beautiful it is. And its use of music and sound was on point throughout the entire demo. It was a short and sweet demo as well. The only negative I could take away from it was a worry that it wouldn't live up to the hype, which is kind of the number one worry for any good demo, honestly. So did it manage to keep me on the edge of my seat with its foggy streets, interesting characters, and engaging puzzles? Did it? I'll start by saying this about the demo. An English Hauntings demo is as close to perfection I think you can possibly get. It gave you the premise of the story, it let you open up places on the map, but locked them off so you had to focus on the one puzzle the game gave you. What it did well was give you a peek at how big the game would feel without overwhelming you or giving away too much. It left you to ponder just how well the main game would live up to what the demo set down. So, onto my very brief and non-spoilery overview of the game. We play as Professor Patrick Moore. From the get-go, they set his personality in stone. I said in the demo review that I love his back and forth with his class, asking how they could have so much belief in something like God, an entity with zero scientific proof behind him, yet be so close-minded to something like ghosts. It is a fair point, and it also gives you an insight into who Patrick is. Give him proof of something, or at least strive to prove it is real, and he'll be happy. Just blind belief, or indeed blind disbelief, and he will chew you out. This debate will go on to be one of the least of his worries though, as he gets dragged into the Dean's office to learn that his partner in the Meta-Psychic Investigations Department, which is a mouthful, Professor Ward, has ran off with a massive donation that the university had received for that department. Patrick on his own has 72 hours to prove ghost exists, or the department will be shut down following the scandal. And not just that, Patrick's bad luck just keeps growing. The university might have given him this task, but they have also locked up his equipment, so he has to do this investigation with very little professional aid. He also has no money, as his fiance's family have gotten wind of this scandal and use it as a reason to end their engagement, but also to lock his money away because they run the bank, and that's just legal apparently. With Professor Ward still missing, Patrick's back is up against the wall. An English Haunting will have you travelling around London, meeting ladies of questionable morals, Irish thugs, mediums of various believability, and maybe a guest character you might have already heard of. Over the course of the game, Patrick will uncover some very uncomfortable truths that he might wish he'd never uncovered. For me, An English Haunting was, hand on my heart, one of the best games I played in 2024. Postmodern Games made an intelligent game that never looks down on the player. It tells you everything that you might need to know to keep up with the science behind it without just parroting off random Wikipedia pages the writer might have read one night. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Virtue's Last Reward. Patrick, in my opinion, is the perfect balance for a main protagonist. He's stubborn, but he's also in Edwardian England, so the majority of people he talks to are just as stubborn as he is. That being said, he also listens to people, which makes him a much more enjoyable character to spend time with over someone like George Stobart, who is just rude. He has his opinions, but he's open to hearing others, and if it'll get him closer to his end goal, he'll even suspend his disbelief if someone can prove him wrong. This is all fair as well. He is a scientist after all, and what kind of scientist would just blindly believe anything? Only one moment in the game made him feel, in my personal bare opinion, unkind and unfeeling. Proving his point and showing up the non-believers becomes more important to him than the human lives in front of him. There was a lack of remorse over what his action caused at times, or even humility when he was proven to be heartless and caused real harm. It still personally works for me though. It was only one moment, and I won't go into it because 1, I don't want to spoil anything, and B, I don't want to cloud opinions on it if you haven't played the game. But it was the story of these ladies here, and if you have a different opinion on it, please let me know in the comments. For me, there are 2 reasons why even in his worst moments, he still comes out of the situation pretty fine. First up is that everyone in the game, as I've already said, is pretty stubborn themselves. Any ego he might have is matched perfectly by anyone he comes against. Secondly though, is that the game always gives the more human view in the situation. Whether it be Patrick just outright saying something, or another character who doesn't just fall in line with him, he'll be called out for rude opinions or being too brash, and very often will apologize or at least re-evaluate how he goes into a situation. If I'm going to be honest as well, this is one of the game's biggest strengths. Every interaction is well thought out, characters bounce off Patrick exactly as he needs them to. We get various opinions, ideologies and lifestyles portrayed in the game, and none of them are ever looked down on or made fun of. Whilst he'll always be stubborn in his need to find these ghosts, he doesn't go into every conversation as a one-dimensional character. He won't just sit around asking everyone if they know about voodoo, or declaring he'll be a mighty ghost hunter. He goes into every conversation pretty naturally, knowing what he needs out of any given situation. Postmodern Adventures character writing is extremely touching. You will love background characters just as much as the main cast. You'll really enjoy the moments that Patrick gets called out, but you will also rejoice in the moments where he is right. More than anything, you'll love the bond he creates with the people he meets along the way, and the understanding they all end up having with each other. When you look at the story as a whole, it is impressively written, especially in keeping the tension up in the second half of the game, where things start to really up the ante. Much like Wadget Eye Games, An English Haunting is able to mix mystery detective themes with the supernatural, making a fantastic blend of moments that would fit into either genre. But above all else though, the human story is the most important part. It is still a game though, so we must stop gushing about the story and talk about other things. An English Haunting is hauntingly beautiful. Get it? They managed to bring Edwardian London to life, whether in the halls of the university or in foggy streets out in the slums. Each screen is full of exactly what it needs to be. People are out there naturally going about their day-to-day life, whether passing along the street in the foreground or background, or standing around doing their jobs like this kid here. We all know how much of a sucker I am for games that feel lived in, and this honestly felt like walking down streets full of people. I also just cannot go without once again talking about how beautiful the animation on the travel screen is. It honestly is one of my favourite ways to travel in games, and with the music quietly playing in the background, it was such a soothing place to be. There are actually other maps in the game as well. You do go to a few different places, but whilst none of the others match the beauty of this one, they all completely fit their purpose. And what I mean by that is when you are out on some random Scottish island, you actually have a map that you're holding. Or when you're investigating what happened to Ward, you have a notebook with places to go. They just make sense and work. What really elevates the game though is the use of sound. It does have a soundtrack, but it is used sparingly. They weren't afraid to leave you in quiet, but it is that lived-in quiet where you might hear music coming from a distance, or people coughing in the background. When they do use their own music, it always kind of fits wherever you are and whatever you're doing. Much like Broken Sword, my all-time favourite game, it felt designed to make you feel as if you were playing a movie. I guess the most important thing to talk about though would be the puzzles. None of the puzzles outstay their welcome. They don't get bogged down in moon logic or silliness. Each puzzle will offer a challenge, but they have well-explained reasoning behind them, and very often, if you get stumped, the answer was rooted in common sense all along. Yes, I forgot what radiators do, even though Patrick told me. I'll never live it down. Talking of Patrick, he does make the puzzles easier by explaining everything in a well-thought-out manner. When I say easy, I don't mean easy, I just mean he helps progress your thought process for the puzzles along with it. When he looks at things, he gives a decent description, and often you just have to listen to what he says, look at what you have, and he'll click into place what the logic is to the puzzle. There isn't a great variety in them. They are mainly inventory-based puzzles, but there is a fun quiz that you can sit through in the bookstore that I don't think actually rewards you with anything, but it's a lot of fun to do. I'll say this, and I don't mean it in a bad way, but the puzzles are second to the story in this game. It isn't there to make you waste hours getting angry at the items in your inventory or trying to figure out a riddle. It is there to give you something to do between story moments and to make you feel immersed into this world that they've created. I will say that pixel hunting could be a problem. It is well detailed, and I do feel that most items that you'll need to interact with are pretty obvious, but there are some that are kinda small. I might have mentioned that in a demo review because the classroom has a few items that I feel could be easily missed, and this will just end up being a problem the longer you play. The game itself took me 9 hours to complete on stream, so about 8 hours if we take away breaks and me just being a noodle. At no point did the game ever feel like it had started to drag. The story didn't feel overbloated or padded out. It has many different acts that see you interacting with various different people and in different situations and places. It really does all that it can to immerse you in its setting and just let the experience take you over. I also really feel that Postmodern Adventures was kind to the world it created. We live in a much more scientific world now in 2025, but the writers tried to show how people in 1907 would believe in the fake films, pictures that are obviously fake, or ramblings of people on stages that they saw. It had a warmth behind it, an understanding of people suddenly learning about things that they never thought of before and yearning for the truth. Patrick might always be demanding of evidence, but he never comes off as mocking. Well, unless it's these guys, and they kind of deserve it at times. And English Haunting also just has a very sad undercurrent. This is Beatrice Shaw. She is a fake medium and lifelong friends of Nelson Ward. Her whole story is about how women weren't allowed into universities and for sure not to pursue the sciences, so instead she went into being a fake medium. Patrick himself has a miserable life. His fiancée leaves him at the drop of a hat for a crime he didn't commit, and his relationship with Professor Ward is just weird. Ward himself is a weird cookie, but everything that happens to Patrick in the game is undeniably due to Ward, and none of the things that happen to him are nice at all. If I had to pick a fault, and this is a very nitpicky and didn't actually bother me fault, along with the pixel hunting, I'd have to say it's extremely wordy. It isn't voice acted, which can be a problem, might not be a problem, but it does mean you'll have to read a lot of dialogue, and I mean a lot of it at times. I personally never felt like it was too much, but I guess it depends on how you feel about that. It can also be very pseudoscience-y, so be warned about that. Personally, I feel it was a well-crafted game, beautifully written and presented in such a gorgeous way that will keep you on the edge of your seat till the very, very end. That being said, this is the end of the video. I hope I was able to keep you on the edge of your seat too. I would really love it if you could help the video in the algorithm by liking this video, commenting below if you have played the game, and letting me know how you feel, and subscribing for more bear-like content in the future. Also drop me a follow over at twitch.tv/Annakuma with 2 A's at the end for more gaming content. I'll be back soon with another kind of spoopy game as we dive in next time to the world of Prim. Until then though, thank you for watching and bye bye.